your relationship with your pops, like you were vulnerable in the first book, but this was like another level of vulnerability, right? Was it
Father Time?
Father Time.
That chapter's named after the Kendrick song.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you kind of like expound on that? Me and Gina had a private conversation about her and her family and stuff like that, but can you kind of give people that perspective as far as sharing a piece of yourself that otherwise you bury?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of times when we have conversations about daddy issues, it's always regulated to just women. And men probably have, I don't want to say bigger because I don't like to get into the comparing Olympics, who got it worse, the Straya. But it's just like, men be having issues with their fathers too, because that's your first superhero. That's the person that you look up to and you probably look just like. And that's the Superman, in your house. And for me, my dad dealt with a lot of his own issues that I didn't know he was even dealing with back then, right? The substance abuse, his own mental health issues. And so a lot of ways that he was raising me out of fear and not love.
Damn.
And so I one of my first breakthroughs that I talk about in the book, in therapy, was realizing that he used to discipline me for things that he never taught me. And so that complicated it complicated our relationship, but I didn't realize that at the time. It was just one of those things where I kind of just like distanced myself in a way. And then,
your life experiences in any way make you understand your father more?
Absolutely, 100%. Especially when I started going to therapy, and then I wrote my second book, Shook on Anxiety Playing Tricks on Me, and my father read it, and then my father, I had a younger cousin, he was like 24, 25, he completed suicide, and he had tried to complete suicide 4 times in his life, but he used to work with my dad, because my dad, does like construction jobs, so he would go out on, construction sites with my pops. So when he killed himself and my dad read my second book, my dad literally called me, and that's when my dad told me that he was going to therapy 2 and 3 times a week throughout his life. He was on 10 to 12 different medications for his mental health. He tried to commit suicide, back in the day. And when he told me all of that, I remember reaching out to my mom and asking my mom, like, yo, Dad was going through all that? And she was like, I thought he was playing crazy to get a check. So he didn't even have nobody he could really talk to until he was dealing with all those issues. But when he told me that, it allowed me to give him a lot of grace.
Why did you give him grace, though? Because, a lot of people, like me, for example, I wrote my daddy off, blocked him for a year. And then it was just certain stuff that happened that made me say, let me just reach out to him. Let's talk. Why did you decide to give him grace?
Because he didn't do nothing to me. Like, my daddy was literally just trying to be the best man he could at the time with the knowledge and the information that he had. He was literally dealing, with the cards that life had dealt him. So he was dealing with his substance abuse. He was, dealing with his mental health issues. He couldn't keep his dick in his pants, right? And he had a lot going on. He had kids. Unbeknownst to me, he had other kids outside of, the 5 he had with my mom. So he had a lot going on. And I just understand life. I understand what life does to a person. So, having that conversation with him in 2018 just allowed me to give him so much grace. And that's why I tell everybody, man, make sure you talk to your parents, because your parents had a life before they were your parents. Yeah. And when you learn about that life, you'll understand why they probably ended up treating you the way they treated you.